Over 500 years ago, Leonardo da Vinci wrote in his manuscripts about how to describe a woodpecker's tongue. More than 500 years later, we discover that this was da Vinci's unfulfilled wish. In the week before he died, Leonardo da Vinci was really obsessed with one question. What's the deal with a woodpecker's tongue? He'd been fascinated by it for a long time. What secrets does it hold? Let's dive into this story. In 2006, at the IG Nobel Prize ceremony, there was this scientist with a woodpecker on his head saying, "The woodpecker's tongue is in its brain." What does that even mean? Have you ever thought about how woodpeckers bash their heads against tree trunks like crazy? The force they endure must be huge. If a human did that, they'd probably get a concussion right away. So why doesn't the woodpecker? This expert named Ivan explained further. After dissecting a woodpecker, he found that the tongue starts behind the nostrils, loops around the skull through the right nostril, splits into two at the back of the head, passes through the occipital bone and eyes, then reunites at the base of the beak before extending out of the mouth. This structure serves two purposes. First, the tongue winding around the brain makes it over 3 times the length of the beak, reaching up to 12 centimeters, sometimes longer than the woodpecker's body. This way, after pecking into the tree, it can extend its super long tongue to hook out insects from the tree holes. If you look closely, the woodpecker's tongue is covered with tiny barbs. The second purpose is to protect the brain and eyes. Why does the woodpecker's tongue split into two when it reaches the occipital bone? Because the woodpecker has 2 eyes, and while pecking, it strikes the wood up to 20 times per second, with a speed reaching an incredible 555 centimeters per second. The impact force on its head is like 1,000 times its body weight. In comparison, professional pilots and astronauts can only handle about 4-5 times their body weight, and more than that might make them pass out. Imagine the feeling of riding a roller coaster, which is only about twice the gravitational force. So what does 1,000 times gravity mean for the woodpecker? Ivan went on to say that it's not just about concussions. If any other creature experienced this, their eyeballs would probably pop out. But the woodpecker turns its tongue into a safety belt for its eyes. In the split second before striking the tree trunk, the tongue interacts with an internal membrane in the eyes, instantly closing and securely wrapping the eyeballs. Plus, the woodpecker's skull is thick and soft like a sponge, forming a cushioning system with the 2 tongue branches at the back of its head, further reducing the impact force. It's truly incredible. But as we continue to study the tongues of living creatures, we find that the woodpecker's tongue is just the beginning. A woodpecker's tongue is about 2 to 3 times the length of its beak. And what about the pangolin? Its tongue is as long as its entire body. Does that mean its brain is full of tongue? Well, experts found out through dissections that a pangolin's tongue doesn't loop around its head, but rather its waist. Just like the joke says, when it's not using its tongue, it wraps it around its waist. The pangolin actually does this. A pangolin's tongue is incredibly flexible. Even though it's about 30 to 40 centimeters long, the thinnest part is only half a centimeter in diameter, and the thickest part is just 2 centimeters. This tongue can easily slip into ant holes. Instead of using barbs, it relies on a special sticky saliva to pull out termites and insects. The pangolin's salivary glands are highly developed, extending from its mouth all the way to its shoulders, like it's carrying a saliva cannon. To make its tongue even more efficient, the pangolin has a tongue pouch in its throat. This amazing pouch-like muscle can store the extra length of the tongue when it contracts, and when it shoots out, it provides powerful ejection. This allows the pangolin's tongue to dart in and out up to 80 times per minute, averaging 1.3 times per second. The pangolin uses its sharp claws and armored body to dig into crevices. When it hits a gap it can't dig through, it shoots out its long, fast tongue to reach its prey. With this method, a pangolin can eat up to 30,000 termites in a day. Covered in armor, the pangolin has been a formidable creature since the dinosaurs went extinct. It hasn't evolved in 49 million years, and it can even use its scales to trap air and turn itself into a submarine underwater. Aside from flying, it can dig through mountains and dive into water. Experts say that the tongue is the first weapon of animals. Many times the reason why various animals have evolved into such bizarre forms is directly related to their tongues or their feeding methods. Therefore, the tongue has become the second most peculiar organ in the natural world. Since the tongue is such a survival tool, where did our human tongue come from? So picture this. It all kicks off with these super cute baby monkeys, right? They're all over the internet, becoming total pet sensations with their big eyes and adorable antics. But here's the twist. These monkeys, whether they're Galagos senegalensis, Tarsidas, or Nycticebus bengalensis, they're actually top-notch predators in the wild. And get this, their tongues are gearing up to be some of the most fearsome weapons on the planet. Okay, so you check out these monkeys up close, and what do you see? Two tongues, man. Yeah, two. There's the regular one, like ours, on top. And then there's this funky thing underneath called the sub-tongue. It's like a comb, cleaning their mouths and grooming their fur. But get this, experts think this grooming habit might be where human language got its start. Crazy, right? I mean, think about it. According to some recent study, our ability to gab and gossip might have started with monkeys just chilling and grooming each other. And these little dudes with their sub-tongues doing the cleanup might have been the OGs of communication, setting us humans on the path to language. And as we ponder the mysteries of our tongues, we uncover some wild stuff. Those little fleshy strands under your tongue, apparently they're pretty normal, even though they can be a pain if you accidentally yank one. But get this, people with these things tend to be pretty slick talkers. Evolutionary quirk, maybe? Seriously, less than 1% of people can inflate their tongues, like blow them up like a balloon. It's not actual inflation, just some special muscle control. Guinness even certified some dude for having the longest tongue. Wild, huh? Ever notice how some folks can shoot a stream of saliva from under their tongue? Yeah, apparently that's pretty normal too. Maybe it's a leftover from when tongues were used to intimidate, like those lizards with the blue tongues. Even though the tongue's always moving, it can still pack on the pounds if you're not using it enough. That's why fit people with active tongues rarely snore, while couch potatoes tend to sound like chainsaws at night. So whether it's those baby monkeys with their grooming habits or our own tongues with their crazy abilities, it's all part of the story of how we humans got talking, gossiping, and working together. It was the night of March the 14th, 1951. Albert Einstein was celebrating his 72nd birthday at the Princeton Club. Little did he know, word had gotten out about his party. When Einstein was ready to leave, he found a crowd of journalists and photographers waiting outside. The flashbulbs annoyed him, and even after he got into his car, the reporters wouldn't leave him alone. As Einstein was about to close the car door, one photographer shouted, "Hey, professor, smile for us." Instead of smiling, Einstein, like a sudden burst of light, turned around and stuck out his tongue. Photographer Arthur Sasse captured the moment, creating an iconic photo that has since been widely shared. Surprisingly, Einstein loved the photo. Far from being angry, he even requested multiple prints from the newspaper and sent them to friends. So why did Einstein stick out his tongue at that moment? Some say it was because he was under suspicion by the US government at the time, and journalists were eager to get his reaction. Sticking out his tongue was Einstein's way of expressing his feelings about the situation. Others believe Einstein's gesture was meant to convey a deeper message. Einstein admired Leonardo da Vinci for his childlike curiosity and lifelong observation of nature. Da Vinci was fascinated by seemingly trivial things, like the woodpecker's tongue, a question most people wouldn't ponder beyond the age of 5. Even at the age of 67, just a week before his death, Da Vinci was still thinking about it. Perhaps Einstein's tongue gesture was his way of reminding us about the importance of maintaining a childlike wonder and finding value in seemingly useless things. All right, that's the end of today's story. See you next time.